Let me secondly put something in context, and this is important. We must not confuse Kenyans. The role of delimiting boundaries of wards is exclusively the role of IEBC,
yes,
not anybody else. And under Article 89.3, that can be done at any time. It does not require any interval. So that could have been done yesterday, it can be done now, or it may not be done. The role, secondly, of delimiting constituencies is also the role of IEBC, but must be done within the framework of 8 to 12 years. But thirdly, the role of delimiting numbers and boundaries of counties does not belong to IEBC and does not belong to Senate or even the National Assembly. While Senate and the National Assembly can come up with legislation to guide it, there must be an independent commission appointed for that purpose under Article 188. And so if we want to go that way, we must start by thinking of when and where we appoint that independent commission. And that supports what I've been saying all along, that in the context of discussing any changes to the Constitution, we should take the opportunity to discuss any changes, if we need, to counties, to wards, to constituencies, so that it's neatly framed as one item, not separate competing items. Kenyans have asked legitimately, do we need all those counties or should we reduce it? Do we need all the constituencies or should we reduce it? Now, there will be a technical hitch. Most Kenyans support the idea of reducing constituencies and counties as long as it is not their own. And Parliament, having made the mistake of adding 80 constituencies irrationally, it's going to be a very difficult task to remove them. But we must have that conversation. It is possible that if we go the parliamentary way, if we were to have that conversation, and I agree with Dr. Iseli on this, in fact, most Kenyans prefer the parliamentary system, then we might end up in a situation where you are able to rationalize even the sizes and numbers of wards, constituencies, and counties without a problem. Now, let me mention then, leaving the referendum question, the issue you touched on, and I do not know whether you want to phrase it further or I could touch on it, but let me touch on it. The question of what you said in terms of ODM or NASA seeking to discipline members of parliament who went against the directives.
Isn't that the next debate?
Yes, I'm happy to come into it. As I understand, you had introduced it. I think Senator Matangi has spoken to it already. First of all, I have not seen the list. Certainly, it has not come to the floor of the House. I think even Dr. Iseli, you have not seen it, except to the extent that we've seen it referred to in the papers. And that which I have seen referred to in the papers does not seem to follow that line. It does not seem to follow the line of punishing members of parliament who defied the party. I am one of those who voted against, yes, and I'm not in the list, okay? And there are members who voted for, like my park chairman, Opio, and I, who are in the list. But he's being removed from the Agriculture Committee. Abdul Samad, who's the chair of PIC, is also being removed from another committee. As I understand it, my impression of what I saw in the papers is that it's a rationalization exercise rather than a punishment exercise. There are some of those members who are already chairs of very powerful committees, and logically, they ought therefore to give way for other members to occupy those slots. Okay, that's as I understand it. If it was different, then we will know when it comes to the floor. Secondly, Article 117 of the Constitution is very clear. Yes. And our party, ODM, and the larger NASA coalition has always respected the Constitution. And Article 117 incorporates and inculcates the freedom of debate and speech in Parliament. That is a fundamental freedom that flows from the sovereignty of the people. Yes. The very people who elect you require you to speak freely and to debate freely in Parliament. And therefore, on issues that fundamentally affect the people, the party would not, as far as I know, punish you for that. Yes. As far as I know, the ODM party has not sought to punish any member for having voted this way or that way, to the best of my knowledge. In any event, that is to be distinguished from the responsibility under Article 103. Article 103 requires you also that once you're elected by a party, there ought to be some element of respect for the party and acting in the interest of the party. So that if then you're elected in this party and you go to Parliament and you've chosen essentially to cross over to another party, or having been elected as independent, you've chosen now to associate with another party, there's a sense in which you can be deemed to have resigned your seat. But that must require certain acts that are not about debate or speech in parliament, but is about associating or disassociating yourself from the party. Now, that is different. Lastly on this, I think this bears repetition. To the best of my knowledge, and the Secretary General of ODM has always stated this, the ODM party never took a position on the 8% VAT. It never did. There was never a parliamentary group meeting on ODM. There was never a party position on ODM. And if you look at the statement that Edwin Sifuna issued, it will corroborate that. There was an invitation for the parliamentary group of NASA, not ODM. And the issue was canvassed as NASA, not ODM.
As NASA, okay.
And therefore, when we discuss this, please don't say ODM, say NASA.
All right, who is the chair of ODM?
The chair of ODM is John Badi.
It's John Badi.
Yes.
Okay. And you say the position of ODM is not for the 8% at all? This is
No, that's not what I've said. I've said ODM never called a parliamentary group meeting to discuss the 8%, nor did ODM as a party take a position on the question of 8%. It was the NASA parliamentary group meeting. So let's say NASA, don't say ODM.
Okay, so no, just a moment. So when we had John Badi, So when we had John Badi and the leader of majority, Edan Duale, on the same side, supporting the 8%, that was Badi's position, not ODM's.
No, you are not getting. I am not contradistinguishing Mbadi from ODM. I'm contradistinguishing ODM from NASA. And I'm telling you that the parliamentary group meeting to which
I think you're making it all convoluted for me.
I don't understand. Let me explain it to you
how can you
like a 5-year-old.
Yes, please. I am now.
Yes. If you look even at, I'll show you the message that was sent. Members were invited to a NASA parliamentary group meeting, not ODM party. And therefore, the position that was reflected, which was later read, was also read as NASA, not ODM. So I want you to understand that it was not an ODM issue. It was a NASA issue. That's the whole point.
So you also were against this particular finance?
Yes, I was.
Yes. So you were against it as not a member of ODM, but member of NASA?
I was against it as the elected member for Ariada constituency, which I am entitled.
Of course, but you were elected there through a party.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it is not.
But I don't understand your question.
What do you mean you don't understand my question? No. You are just being.
Please.
This is just fancy footworks for me. You don't want to actually come forthright and tell us.
Explain to me what your question is. What I'm saying is this.
Aseli understands my question, isn't it? Let's give Aseli.
With much respect to my colleague.
No, these are just fancy footworks.
I think I do understand his position. Why he has to do a Muhammad Ali on us, shuffling a lot. I understand his position. They called in a few people from the coalition partners of NASA to give it a camouflage of being NASA, but it was not a NASA meeting, because if it were a NASA meeting, the spokespeople for NASA are well known. The chairs, the various co-chairs of NASA are well known. They were not in attendance. So this was actually an ODM thing, but I do understand Otienda Molo's situation. He has to, play Saturday, which I understand. I think it's very understandable. But the other thing I would like to ask Mheshimiwa Otienda Molo, the issue of the 80 constituencies was not irrational. What happened is, remember the curricular report?
Yes.
The curricular report clearly stated why we had a problem in our elections, that some constituencies appear to be too large, while others appear to be quite small, and in the process, there's the government revenue share and things like that. Some felt disenfranchised. So a formula was created on how to delineate the boundaries. Using that formula, there's only of the 80, I would say that 20 should not have been created. 60 was what was supposed to be created. But for some shenanigans, they ended up with 80. So it was not totally irrational. There was some basis from the curricular report. Then the other issue of constitution implementation, there's a committee in the National Assembly called Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee, which Jubilee moved very fast in 2013 and compromised. So that this committee has been totally moribund. And you'll find that in the 11th Parliament, when we're, instead of the CIOC looking at the Constitution, they let the Budget Committee do what they called assessing the Constitution, which was not the mandate of the Budget Committee under Mutava Musimi. It should have been the CIOC that was doing it. And that CIOC has completely been compromised, and that's why you find the Jubilee administration has actually been doing a number of things which are totally unconstitutional. So if we say that let's wait until we have implemented the Constitution properly before we talk of changing it, yet we know very well that some of the defects in the Constitution are what Jubilee has taken advantage of to misrule, and we need to correct that. So this thing of the let's implement it first before we change it, yet we are very clear that there are certain aspects of that Constitution that need to be looked at.
And we have a compromise committee, as you say.
Yeah, and the committee is compromised. We cannot rely on it to do anything. In fact, in the 11th Parliament, that committee, in the whole 4+ years, they only produced one report to Parliament. They did not bring it, and this particular Parliament, I don't even know whether it exists.
No, it is existing.
Well,
headed by Jeremiah Kioni?
That's the thing. It's there in name, but it is compromised. So that if I remember in the 10th Parliament, when we had enacted the Constitution, I was a member of the CIOC. It was one of the most powerful committees of the 10th Parliament after its inception, in the sense that we were actually following everything that was happening vis-a-vis implementing the Constitution.
And Abdul Kadir.
Yes, and Abdul Kadir. Then the issue of de-whipping members, I would say, even if it was not because of the finance bill.
Maybe before you continue there, I should read out maybe that particular message that was sent by Mbadi, the leader of minority. And he said, and this I think was the 20th of September, that after careful consideration of the state of economy and after holding a PG, NASA coalition has taken a stand to support the President's memorandum on the Finance Bill 2018. Our MPs in the NASA coalition are therefore accordingly whipped to vote for the President's memorandum.
That's what I'm saying. It was not NASA. Because if it was NASA, how come Musalia was against the whole thing? How come Wetangula was against the whole thing? The only person who appeared to have supported it was...
Did you receive this... of course, I don't know, this particular information. You didn't?
I think they avoided the co-chair. Because it was not NASA. It wasn't. It wasn't. The issue of the whipping, I would say that it's, if it is not because of the finance bill, then the timing is wrong, which is very uncalculative. Because if you are a good politician and you find that you have to do this de-whipping, then you have to choose when. And then if you are going to do this de-whipping, you call this member. Because if somebody belongs to 2 committees and you would like them to belong to one, you call that person and ask them, of these 2 committees, which one would you like to retain? So that we can give this other committee to somebody else. Because I hear there are some people who actually don't belong to any committee. So in a situation like that, if you want to rationalize, it's only right that you call this person and ask them which committee would they like to retain. But if you just remove them without consulting them, it looks punitive, and the timing seems to point towards the finance bill. So it's at that time, yes, I agree there are those chairs of powerful committees like PAC and PIC who really reasonably should not be on any other committee, because being chairs of those committees is sort of full-time.
Yes.
Yes, it's understandable that they should be removed from those other committees to allow other people to get that chance. But the timing is wrong, and the method is also wrong. Because these particular individuals who are affected have not been called to be asked which committee they would like to retain. And for us who are not in ODM, but belonged, and remember my words, belonged to NASA, we feel aggrieved in the sense that it's sort of been we've been sort of taken like the irritating relative, the one who just keeps on coming around. So we've been taken like the children of a lesser mother, and it's not nice. So many of us actually feel that it's time to actually keep away from the whole NASA thing, and until ODM learns.
So keep away means what?
to just keep off the NASA issues, because until ODM learns how to run a coalition.
Thank you.
Because with the way they are doing it, in CORD we ran the coalition very well. We had frequent meetings, frequent PG meetings, frequent meetings of the management committee, and that kept NASA, because that kept CORD intact. But this one, I can assure you, from the last election, the NASA management team has never met. So anybody talking about a PG of NASA,
it has not been there.
It has not been there.
Just allow me to indulge him a bit before coming to you, Aaron Cheriot, because we had also Kalonzo and Mudama saying that there will be a meeting within 10 days. And Raila also said a new alignment is forming, and it excluded, or it excludes Ruto and Wetangula. Raila mentioned Uhuru, Mudavadi, and Kalonzo as the people ready for the Building Bridges initiative. So what is really happening around NASA? And of course,
the thing is, we are trying to do something about the constitution, and we are trying to bring people together, building bridges, but we are doing it with exclusivity. So we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
Let's see what is happening in Jubilee, because also Jubilee, I think
it is part of the. I want to help Eseli. It is part of the conmanship we have been talking about. where on one hand you're speaking about building bridges, you want to have a better and more united Kenya, but so long it is only self-serving. So long as it continues to propel your politics, it is okay. But the minute other members of your party, for example, cozy up to other leaders, they are called and whipped and told, oh, that is not the behavior that is expected of you. When you meet one group of people, you tell them this or the other thing. That is why we called it conmanship. And unfortunately, my good friend of the governor of Mombasa decided to interpret it otherwise and said we had referred to someone as a conman. Anyway, that's a discussion for another way. You've just seen what I was referring to earlier. And my good friend Otiende said, I'm becoming a professor of NASA politics, self-appointed. But you've just seen how much pussyfooting he had to involve himself in this morning. He can't determine whether it was an ODM or a NASA meeting. The point that I want to make abundantly clear is that as Jubilee, how we do and how we run our things is that in absence of a PG, we take direction from our party leaders. My party leader, President Uhuru Kenyatta, has made his stand public and known that in his thinking, he does not think that a referendum and even all that discussion about it is a best placed discussion to have at this point in time. I support him on that particular stand. But because Otiende and his company were running a propaganda that it is a deputy president who's opposed, he had to come out clear and say, for the record, I am not ready for that discussion. I am busy. But just so that you know, please go ahead and have it. I am not opposed to you in all your endeavors. How is that different from what our party leader has said? So, as a party,
did we not have any people from your party who were against the?
No. What's his position?
My position is that of my party leader, the president. This is not the time to have that referendum discussion. And it is the same.
No.
It is the same. It is the same.
No, you're going off the rails. No, we are actually discussing the whipping. We had people also from the Jubilee. Yes, we are done with the referendum.
People from Jubilee who are done what?
Yeah, briefly, just tell us, are people also being whipped within Jubilee?
No. Nobody has been whipped in Jubilee.
All of you were shoehorned actually to
everybody. Jubilee had a parliamentary group meeting.
Yes.
First of all, you know, my handicap in this is that I'm not a member of National Assembly.
Yes.
But generally, by relation, I know what happened. One is that I know we had a parliamentary group meeting where members of National Assembly from the Jubilee coalition agreed to support the finance bill. When they got to the floor of the House, some decided to exercise their independence. Either they felt that for one reason or the other, they were not in agreement with the direction that they were given. That is part of democracy. That's why you haven't seen us in one way or the other try to punish anybody. It is within their discretion. It's part of parliamentary freedom. However, it is. I think it's a difficult situation to be in because the general thinking is that when your personal principles and that of your party are in coalition, the practical thing to do in politics is to support that of your party.
Thank you.
And that is a struggle Otiende has this morning.
All right. Let's just have callers who are hanging on the line before we come to Wamatangi. We have Chris from Rungai hanging on the line. Good morning. We'd love to hear from him, having his contribution as well. Good morning, Chris.
Yes.
Good morning, Chris.
Yes, Debala.
Yes. Morning to you.
Morning to habari asubuhi.
Tuko salama. Uko na swali ama contribution?
Nataka hiyo mambo yenyewe nasema ya ODM, ilikuwa mambo ODM, iko mambo ya NC. NC Mudavadi wetu alikataa. Hiyo ni mambo ya ODM na Raila Odinga na Kinotienda Molo. Kinotienda Molo anasema tu nini? Huyo Otienda Molo na ODM. Na Kalonzo Musyoka, lakini upande wa Tangula na Mudavadi wako support vitu.
Wako support. So thank you, Chris. There we have another Martin, another caller on the hanging on the line. Martin, good morning, Martin.
Good morning.
Yes, morning. Question or contribution, please?
I have a contribution. Niko nasema.
Yeah, briefly.
About politics. About your own interest.
Yes.
Kwa ajili kitu moja, ukiangalia Raila, mambo ya NASA ni alinyamaza kitu ya kwanza. Ndio naona alisupport 8. Na kitu kingine about Kenya ni about tribalism Gibal. Angalia your panelists. You have five big tribe in Kenya. Every time. Yes. Ukienda Citizen, ukienda nini, ukienda NTV, naletewa panelists ni big 5. Unaona ndio naongea kitu moja. Hiyo ni big 5. Ya Kikuyu, Jaluo, Haiti, kusaidia Kenya about tribalism. Hiyo ni yako.
Asante Martin. Let's take our last caller. Right. That's it. Of course, your reactions on Matangi, even as you're giving your headline thoughts as well.
On the big 5. Interesting. I would rather be the lion than in the big 5. You know, but I think you know, those are comments that are worth noting. But I note most the one that Otiende Amolo has been corrected by one of the viewers, and actually, you know, just to be fair to Otiende Amolo, and I think Senator Cheriot used a long word there that he was pussyfooting. I think you know, he recommended that I should multitask, and I think he was just multitasking. But it's understood. You know, you asked me a question, Otiende, that why can't we just do what we have to do and let you talk? And so what is it all about? You know, by the very nature and structure of our politics, what politicians say, and I think that is one of the major issues we need to relook at, even at a time when we will be speaking about changing the constitution, is how much power have we given within that constitution and other legislation around it? How much power have we given to politicians to ultimately determine the destiny of so many people around here by virtue of just the kind of politics we play? And you know, I say that, Dibal, because see, just from that debate that we're having about when a member of parliament goes, he's been whipped, go to parliament, say this, vote this way or vote that way, to law or legislation that will have a major effect on the lives of Kenyans, then you can't ask on the same breath how or why, you know, would does politics affect the lives of people? Because we say things, we go vote, we tell it to the people, it becomes law, it becomes the way we think, it becomes the way we do things. And so I think we need to very, very seriously take a big relook at how much power, you know, politicians have. Finally, on this issue of the NASA discussion here that was held by my two colleagues, and I think I started getting the same mood we used to be in a bit earlier when there was a lot of vibrant discussion between NASA and ODM. It's key, and I want to associate with that view. Actually, isn't it strange that right now you don't even hear the boss of NASA now talking about NASA? And I saw a very interesting comment here in the I don't know whether you saw it, Deval, by the boss himself. You know, he was saying, where are those comments? Very interesting one. And he says, our constitution is ripe for change. We must evaluate if devolution has served us successfully. Is the executive too bloated for economy? And then he was saying, here that the journey to Canaan is still on course with both NASA and Jubilee on board. So, and you know,
Then
I was saying, I think it's interesting because you know, the tune has changed, and I embrace Raila because he's a national leader.
Thank you.
But I think in this case we have to be forthright with Kenyans.
Thank you.
How we want to drive the country.
Thank you. Otiende Amolo, your closing remarks, 20 seconds.
Yeah, very quickly. First,
20,
I
yes.
did not pussyfoot. I was clear and I opposed the 8%. And I stand by that. Secondly, Senator Churiot is becoming the new generation of watermelon. At the beginning of the show, he starts by saying he supports the change. Then he closes by saying he opposes. But lastly, my friend, Dr. Eseli Simiu, you, among others, have always told us NASA is dead. So when then the chief whip of NASA reconstitutes the committee based on that account, it's like having pronounced somebody dead. But when the priest come to do the burial ceremony, you say, no, no, you have killed this person. You must therefore then live with the consequences of that proclamation, although I agree with you that I would rather it did not happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zeli,
I think NASA is moribund and the chief whip is just tearing it to pieces. But whoever has said about the big five, I think it's something the media needs to look at. Yesterday I was on another panel where we were not actually the big five. We were different. But somebody said that politics is about interests. Yes, it's interests personal, national and community interests. But if in Kenya's case we have too much personal interest in our politics, I think we need to, most of us in the political class need to rethink our interests and look at the national interests and maybe community interests to an extent.
Thank you. Aaron Chiriot,
I just
finally.
my final thoughts is Migori by-election. That it still baffles me that Raila Odinga and his team could sweat this much because of a 27-year-old in Luo Nyanza. It tells you the wind of change is blowing and people are tired of the kind of games Otiende and company are playing.
Thank you. All right, no, Mama Tange, I told you that will be your closing remarks as well. No. We start for time. No, next week. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.